You'd never get tired of talking about a horse like that, which was a sort of a life-changing experience for us.
See the stars, this shining star!
He had it all. He had no weakness. Pace, physique, and he had that really winning attitude.
But see the stars, the champion he is, strides to glory!
Just the sheer pleasure of training him and the sheer pleasure of just looking at him every day. You know, it was an effort to leave the stable to go on to the next one, you know, because he was just such a joy. It was a wonderful experience to train a horse like that. I mean, as a 2-year-old, as I said, he looked promising, you know, but we've all had promising horses that didn't measure up. But when he started fast work, you know, and Mick Kinnane rode him early on, he gave a very good report. And so we were immediately a bit relieved and looking forward to his development. And as the year went on, of course, he changed shape a bit. He grew longer during the spring and early summer. And then he went on and he won his maiden by 4 lengths. And then at the end of September, last Sunday in September, he won the Beresford Stakes here, which is a good 2-year-old race that we always liked. His behaviour changed. He was a horse that anybody would ride during the early part of his 2-year-old career. But as he developed and got stronger and got the idea of racing, he was a really energetic horse. You had to be really careful with him. He's so big and strong. If he threw a little bit of a jump and a kick just for fun, which is what he did, just for fun, it'd take a good rider to sit on him.
Was it the greatest 3-year-old season of all time?
Undoubtedly. You know, he never missed a dance.
Set for the Guineas. And they're racing.
It was probably the most significant of all his wins in many ways, because he got a temperature on the 17th of March, 103, quite a high temperature. You know, not many horses would have got over that. So it was an achievement for him to actually run in the 2000 Guineas.
Just behind the leading group on the near side is See the Stars.
And luckily then he was able to go there and didn't look his best, but he won comfortably. It proved he could win at a mile, which is very important.
See the Stars comes at him. They settle down to fight it out as they hit the rising ground. 𝙩𝙧𝙚 and See the Stars. See the Stars going home slightly the better. And See the Stars wins the Guineas for John Oxx and Mick Kinnane.
I think we were lucky. We had a 5-week interval to the Epsom Derby that year, and he needed it probably because the Guineas could have taken something out of him.
And they're off and racing.
But Derby was great. It was great to watch it. He was in lovely position all the way. There was a nice pace, and he travelled down to the furlong marker more or less on the bridle.
Golden Sword being gathered in by See the Stars. Now the stamina questions will be answered inside the final furlong. See the Stars from Favourite Glory, 𝗵𝗵𝗏 late on the scene down the outside. See the Stars will complete the Guineas and 𝗏𝗵𝗏.
Distance didn't matter, you know, whether it was a mile or a mile and a half or anything in between, you know, it just didn't matter. He had all the speed in the world and great acceleration, great enthusiasm. We brought him here, then we thought we'd run him, of course, in the Irish Derby, but it rained a lot on the Friday afternoon. So we took him out, but because we had him in the Eclipse Stakes at Sandown the following week, he was taking on 4-year-olds, older horses for the first time, coming down in distance.
See the Stars sits in fourth, the yellow jacket Mick Kinnane.
He was taking on more good horses though, like 𝗵𝗵𝗏, who was second and who won the Sussex Stakes on his next start by several lengths.
Here comes See the Stars in the hands of Mick Kinnane, and he's going to have to commit pretty early here.
He hit the front too soon that day, and he was sort of pulling himself up until 𝗵𝗵𝗏 joined him, and then he went again. Broke the track record, so that was great.
See the Stars by half a length to 𝗵𝗵𝗏. He's beating off 𝗵𝗵𝗏. They race up to the line. See the Stars, this shining star. See the Stars wins the Eclipse.
So we decided to miss the King George and waited for York, and thought I had him in good form for that. It was a funny race. There were only 4 runners, 3 of them from Aidan O'Brien.
And the pacemakers go on, 1 and 2. Johnny 𝗏𝗏 sitting ahead of Mick Kinnane.
And he had to slip through 2 of the pacemakers behind Aidan's horse, which is kind of looked a risky move on Michael's part, but it worked out fine.
We'll See the Stars comes through between them as well, and is absolutely absolutely cantering.
So he won nicely in the end, but Michael said to me afterwards in the winners enclosure, he said, oh, you know, he needed the run. I thought I had him pretty fit, but anyway, he said he'd come on for the run, he had a good blow pulling up, but he still managed to break the track record, you know.
See the Stars beginning to get up on the near side. Oh, every inch a champion and a fabulous four-timer. See the Stars wins the Juddmonte International.
Great horses like that too, they're not bothered by distance, you know, they're much more adaptable than everybody thinks, and they don't stop because they have this superior cardiovascular system. So he could have run in the St. Leger and been a Triple Crown winner, but the owners weren't keen. We had the Irish Champion Stakes there that same weekend, and it was obviously a more prestigious race to win. But there you are. If you said to me 40 years ago when I started training that I would bypass the chance to win the Triple Crown without batting an eyelid, I'd have said, God, you're crazy.
It's set sail from Master Craftsman. Fame and Glory has moved up. See the Stars comes after him.
But there's no doubt the Irish Champion Stakes being an all-aged race, and coming in September, it's got a great date in the calendar there, 3 weeks before the Arc, but he was electric that day. He really won quite smoothly, and for once he sort of drew away a bit, which he didn't normally do. He never bothered to extend himself once he got to the front.
The big three had run right away from 𝗏𝗏𝗏, but see the Stars, the champion he is, strides to glory, further glory in the Irish Champion Stakes.
And yes, it was nerve-wracking as the year went on. There's no other way to describe it. It was a big responsibility to train a horse like that, a big responsibility to make sure he won. He had to win. He had to win all his races. I didn't want him to be like Nijinsky and lose at the last hurdle. So it was nerve-wracking as we got closer and closer to the Arc. It can be a tricky race, the Arc, you know. See the Stars, we didn't have any pacemaker for him, and we just had to settle him. He was quite an aggressive racer, and that day in the Arc, the early pace maybe wasn't breakneck for the first furlong or two, and he got a bump from a horse who just came past him as Mick was trying to settle him, and it set him off a little bit.
En queue du peloton galop, 𝗏𝗏𝗏.
Avec 𝗲𝗏𝗏 Stars qui tirait beaucoup en partant et qui a perdu pas mal de terrain se retrouve maintenant.
And everybody was saying, oh God, you know, what's wrong today? And he had to pull him back then a bit further than was plan A, though he was kind of at plan C, and he was well back, and everybody was saying, God, he can't win from there, you know.
Things went a little wrong. I sort of half had a look coming off the home stretch maybe to get out a bit, and then I just didn't see and wanted to have a run on my inside, so I tried to close that door.
And then I was anxious to turn into the straight when they just went around the bend and they were straightening up.
I was following 𝗏𝗏𝗏, and he kicked for a gap ahead, and I was able to loop him before he got there. So that was a huge run by my horse to make it.
And when he did that and got through the gap, I breathed a sigh of relief.
Avec Stacelita qui maintenant est lancé par Christophe Soumillon, et Daremy qui vient Curragh également, avec 6 Stars qui a maintenant trouvé l'ouverture.
And I needed to find that 5 lengths, and found it in 3 strides, and he was out.
It was a pretty spectacular final couple of furlongs.
6 Stars qui vient très fort prendre l'avantage, avec Fame and Glory, Juddmonte également qui tente de se rapprocher. 6 Stars qui s'envolent vers les étoiles, 6 Stars qui s'envolent, invaincu à l'âge de 3 ans.
And yeah, you know, it's always the same. You don't jump 6 feet in the sky with jubilation. You just breathe a sigh of relief. And then when he was pulling up, this is the amazing thing Mick Kinnane said. One of the other jockeys, Christophe Soumillon, came up alongside to clap him on the back and congratulate him. And the horse thought, oh God, it's not over yet, and he took off.
My guy usually, when he got by the window post, he's gone to sleep. And next thing, he arrived up and patted me in the back, and next thing, the race wasn't off. And he ran away with me to the top of the backstretch to the 7th furlong gate. So it just goes to show what he had left.
So that was it. That was his last run, maybe his best run, you know. Well, biggest relief anyway to win the last and win all 6 and 6 months, you know. So, did we have a plan to win all those races with him? Well, when he won the Guineas and the Derby, that's always the holy grail. If you can win those two, you really think you've got a potential great horse. But of course, it can't stop at that. To be a great horse, he has to win the rest of them. He has to run up a sequence of big races. We knew he had the ability to win. We knew he was versatile to do the different distances. And if we could just keep him healthy and well, fit and sound, that he could do it. I'm sure it's great to see a great horse like that who has had a great pedigree. He wasn't sort of a fluke in genetic terms. He was a great horse, which is what he was bred to be. It's a relief then when they can pass it on. You expect them to do it, don't you? But it doesn't always happen. But he just had such a tremendous temperament, and he passes that on to a lot of his stock, And I was waiting for him to get a champion miler, because he was a champion miler himself. He was a Guineas winner. Finally, to get 𝗏𝗏 was terrific,
But 𝗏𝗏, this horse has got gears that other horses do not possess.
Well, from a professional satisfaction, it was great. The owner, Christopher Choi, and his mother just said to me, you train that horse like you own him yourself. All round, it was a pleasure. It was nerve-wracking towards the end, but it was a great pleasure to train a great horse like that, and such a great character, such great temperament, and such a wonderful athlete to just observe, and have the pleasure of doing that every day.